This is day 1806. Was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, right along the southern border. It might be secure now, but we're still fighting for justice and Richard's remains. He was forcibly removed and his life was taken from him. And now that is in July, it's 5 years ago, right at this time. Today we have July 24th, 2025. So 5 years, and we've been working very, very hard. What we have accomplished is really a miracle. It's kind of like, I don't want to say at the extent of what President Trump has accomplished at all. But in our little sphere with this huge case, our son's case, keeping it going, exposing the legal and judicial system that is totally cartel operated in El Paso, going up against that, and the mortuary affairs, the funeral home, the fraud that is associated with all of this, with hundreds of bodies found now at the narco cartel body dumping ground that's tied to the Purchase Funeral Homes, which is tied to Martin Funeral Homes that have contracts with Fort Bliss that are cross-border operators, so much so that the former illegal usurper DA, Bill Hicks, is their sole lawyer. Conflicts of interest abound everywhere in this, and it's no difference with this new illegal fraud. What a fake! What a fraud! What a liar! And James Bonneau Montoya, who was previously James Andrew Bonneau, and changed his name to Montoya because he needed a Mexican name. So I'm going to try. I'm coming on a little bit late because I'm trying to see if I can play this for you and see if it works. Let's see if this works here. Can you see that? Let's see if that works. And I want to see if I can play this. Let's see. I'm looking at my Facebook. Let's see if I can get this played.
Oh yeah, James Bonneau Montoya, Mr. Big Lies. You hid your name to keep it alive. Oh yeah, Montoya, a fraud from the start. Fake notary seal and tampered chart. Sold your oath for cartel gold. Now El Paso knows the lies you told. You're a fake, a fraud, a liar in a suit, and the ghost of Richard Halliday's coming for you. You see, he didn't just run for office. He ran a con. He didn't just drop a name. He dropped the truth. He needed a Mexican name, Montoya for the vote. His campaign promise was fake too. Death for Cruces, that's the vow he told you. But a plea deal was made with his hand. He's a liar at the cartel's command. You're a fake and a fraud, serving the FTOs, trafficking lies across border roads. James Montoya, liar in a suit, and the ghost ghost of Richard Halliday's coming for you. Oye, Montoya, got ears like satellite dishes but still can't hear the people screaming fake loud and clear. This ain't politics. This is a cartel network. This is an FDO. Ya basta. The people see clear. Your eyes saw the big gig, not the victim's tears. Justice for Richard Halliday. Fight, 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 fight. Expose this fake DA hiding in plain sight. Oh yeah! Montoya, filled now with a 2028 date. Ni madre sin. It's a system rot from the cartel within. Fraudulent forms, fake notary applied. He's illegally sitting, should be indicted, tried. You can't fight for the slain with a DA this fake. They're laundering justice for the cartel's sake. The truth's in the timestamps, the crimes in the redactions. And if the DA's the problem, then the solution, federal action. Esto no se queda así.
I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter. It's a big difference. Big difference.
Okay, let's see. Now let me turn this off. Okay. I'm learning all of this tech. I'm learning all this tech. And wow. That is that is new news. Not for us. I mean, we have been absolutely suspicious of James Montoya because he was working with Michael Mayella in the DA's office under Jaime Esparza for the during the Walmart mass shooting. That was absolutely a totally botched case. So much so that we have gotten from a major official, multiple, that the Walmart mass shooting was, the crime scene was staged. And now, and I want to thank people for alerting us that there has been the interrogation of Patrick Crucius uploaded on YouTube. That is being analyzed. I can tell you right now, it is so damning. It is so damning to the El Paso Police Department, to this investigation. And I don't know if they were forced to put it up. I don't know. We're getting information as soon as we get a better understanding of the whole situation. We will absolutely report on it. Because sorry, because there is so much information that we're getting that that we want to give accurate information, because President Trump, as you know, works very fast. His administration works very fast. And, we have to try to keep up with it and try to understand what he is doing. And absolutely, he's working with the Mexican government, with the very compromised Mexican president, Sheinbaum. And of course, all of the state of Chihuahua, which is the state that's bordering the United States, that borders El Paso, that Juarez is in, where we filed our missing persons report that was tampered with. And it's sad to know who tampered with it. We know it's It's really sad. It's a bad player, bad operatives. And big trouble coming. Big trouble because President Trump means business, doesn't he? I mean, when his administration puts forth a recommendation to indict uh, Obama, former President Obama, he means business. He absolutely means business because these are very bad actors. Obama is a very, very bad actor in all of this. It's not because for him or against him. I'm just saying that the evidence confirms that he's a bad actor. Um, and so we want accountability. That's a good indication that President Trump's administration means accountability, and that's a really deep state, isn't it? Um, and they're already admitting those that worked with uh, former President Obama and their illegal conspiracy. They are coming out now fearing their arrests. And they absolutely need to be arrested. And there's all this talk like, oh, it's not treason. It is absolutely treason. Absolutely treason. Mutiny is treason. Okay? What they did was absolutely treason. And what the military has done and to President Trump during that time, and we know absolutely, without a doubt, in our son's case, that it was mutiny, absolutely mutiny, which is treason, because we've been at war, haven't we? We have been at war or providing countries that are at war. Um, and these are national security breaches, and um, it, it is it is just aiding and abetting foreign um, FTOs. So yeah, there is no doubt that President Trump's administration wants accountability, is going for accountability, but there is a media deep state, absolutely, and that is a very dangerous because they have a big mouth, don't they? They have a big mouth and a lot of ears, and we are a country that is ran by the people, for the people, of the people, and when you have a media that's directing the people, then it can be very, very tricky with all of the hypnosis. The little squiggly eyes when people just look one way or the other way and not look at the evidence. And you have to look at the evidence, or you get misled. And the reason why we can say it is because for 5 years we have gotten a big education on the criminal trafficking, the criminal um, targeting of the media and of the cartel and of big political players, narco politicians, and their funders that absolutely have extorted our country with fraud at the highest levels, huge fraud, huge fraud. And even in El Paso, when it comes to the funeral homes, the deaths of migrants, so much fraud there, cashing in on the death of people, and including organ harvesting, all kinds of criminal trafficking, and of course the contracts. And then they use the media to push their a narrative and an agenda. They cover their crime with like putting lipstick on a pig, putting icing on excrement, right? They they'll put out, oh, awards, and oh, we give grants, and we're so noble, we're so good, we're so wonderful. We would never do anything wrong, and this is for something good, NPR. This is for something good. This is for something good, and then all that comes with it is pretty stinky stuff, right? Really stinky stuff that equals hell, that equals death. And that's what they're up to no good, and they just put icing on their stinky stuff. So this is what we have discovered over and over again, and them, uh, you know, discovering that Richard, and they knew this. They knew that active duty soldiers are worth a lot of money because Americans love our soldiers, our service members. They absolutely love them, and they provide for them a lot of money. We have $1 trillion military budget, and that's a lot of money, a lot of money. And so, if any of our soldiers die, they get death benefits that are just amazing, and if and of course, burial, funeral homes get paid very well. It becomes a big business. And being on the border, there is a double dip temptation that these evil people that have no moral heart at all, um, that they have taken advantage of. And that is cashing in on U.S. aid funding, because America is the most giving country ever in the history of the world, modern world that we know. And any migrants that were dying, and there were lots of migrants that were dying, um, and that wasn't being reported on because, of course, the media is not going to report on the cash cow, okay, on the cash cow of their handlers. Um, and that was one of their cash cows. Um, through so-called charitable organizations. They would launder the money. They would get the USAID money for unidentified migrants. So for Jane Doe's, John Doe's, and that's what was in this narco cartel, um, rotting body dumping ground that was supposed to be a crematorium. It was a crematorium, but they piled up um, at this time for about 400 bodies, 400 corpses piled up, rotting, stinky as anything. Um, and so we don't know how many altogether. It must have been thousands that they've cashed in on. And that rotting body dumping ground of the narco cartel funeral controlled business that is cross border, purchase funeral home, Martin Funeral Home, that has contracts with Fort Bliss. Um, they've probably cashed in, double dipped on loads of individuals, and you know, uh, so and that was exposed uh, because of President Trump, because this has been going on for a long time, right? Um, and this is separate from the hundreds of thousands of children that were being trafficked through Fort Bliss. Okay, through Fort Bliss, and Fort Bliss and is has a big command because it also has oversight of White Sands Missile Range, and White Sands Missile Range goes all the way up north through New Mexico and bordered on the Jeffrey Epstein ranch there called Zorro Ranch, where he was leasing land from New Mexico, that really airspace, that protected airspace, um, with White Sands Missile Range, where they do the drone development, the missile development, weapons development. It's about it's the biggest. The I think it's 10,000 like square acres, 10,000 square. I mean, it's and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's I don't know if I have the measurement right. Um, but it is the largest military installation that our military has by land mass. Okay, and they do a lot of weapon development there, and drone, and even high altitude balloons. These humongous balloons that go up to the stratosphere. They launch those there too. It is really a very sensitive military installation, and yet it bordered on the Zorro Ranch, um, which is shocking, right? Which is shocking. But Trump knows all of this, and in his wisdom, he is trying to stay very focused. I see that very clearly because of our economy. He just made a huge deal with Japan. I think he made three deals. Economy is very important because our debt is so huge. We're above $37 trillion right now. So, with the AI and all of that, we need to stay afloat. We need to stay a country. And of course, because we are of the people, by the people, for the people, people need to be able to do well. The economy needs to do well in order to fully support President Trump in his endeavors to get accountability from these very bad players called the deep state, the cartel tied deep state. Um, so it is really interesting to watch how this it's just magnificent. I don't know how else to say it because he is honing in on Richard's remains. There's every indication for that because of the revealing of these graveyards. They're not graveyards, or they're rotting body dumping grounds, and even with partial remains, and they're right there in Juarez, and it's been going on a lot, and so he got that revealed, and of course that belongs to not just Purchase Funeral Homes connected to, but also the political party called the Pan Party. The Pan Party, that is a faction of the Sinaloa cartel, which is an FTO. So all of Chihuahua is being ruled by an FTO right now, which is Mauro, Governor Maria Mauro. Um, what's her? I knew it anyway. It's getting late. Campos Galvan. She's the governor there for Chihuahua, and the factions are starting to fight with each other because of this, because there are FTOs, because they can't really do business like they were doing because they're an FTO now because of President Trump. And so nobody wants to be aiding and abetting an FTO because that would be pretty bad. That would be criminal. And El Mayo was arrested not too long ago um, at the Santa Teresa International, or the Santa Teresa Jetport right there in El Paso. And I believe it's, anyway, with El Chapo's son. They were extradited from there to New York, and they have been talking. They've been talking, and President Scheinbaum of Mexico is very unhappy that she doesn't have individuals there that are listening in, are part of the deals in the discussions for information. So President Trump has not allowed them to because, they are aiding and abetting an FTO. Because Chihuahua, the state of Chihuahua, which includes Juarez, Mexico, is being run by a faction of the El Mayo's Sinaloa cartel. And El Mayo is a billionaire. Um, I think he's a billionaire, and they're talking, right? They're talking. Um, and so with that, there was the exposure of this body dump. And the next thing is the biometrics. And that is really the real topic of this tonight is the biometrics. There's a lot of people with very different opinions on the biometrics, but I can tell you this right now that Richard, uh, being, you know, our evidence absolutely indicates that Richard was dismembered and that he was identified in Texas, um, and that his remains were cashed in on through the VA death benefits of the United States Army by imposters representing our family. And this is why there was such a delay in declaring him dead, because they had committed such a huge fraud using our son's death after they took his life, after they had targeted him, after everything. It's terrible, but that part of his remains were taken over to Mexico to double dip, so that they could not identify him over there, just call him an unidentified migrant, call him a a John Doe, and then turn that in and get death benefits from USAID through that. Um, Now, if biometrics were in play in Mexico, um, there there's so much to it. I even wrote some new notes down about the biometrics and how that would help us. What President Trump is doing is maybe be trying to prevent situations like this from happening in the future, or to identify Richard's remains, because the hundreds of bodies that were discovered now rotting there, they have not been identified. Okay, this is the thing. They don't want them identified. Many families, over 1,000 people, were screaming for the Attorney General there, and his name is Cesar Haragui, there in Juarez, Mexico, to identify these remains, because uh, what was happening is that they were burning in the crematorium, not, I'm sure they were burning some humans, but they were burning animals and filling the urns with animal ashes and giving it to the families. And this way they could double dip. They could charge the families, and then they can also cash in through USAID to say these are identified migrant bodies, and then double dip that way to, isn't that the most gross way to make money? It's just a terrible, terrible thing. So if you have biometrics, um, it would prevent, the thought is, and what President Trump's administration is saying, if you look up the articles, is that it would prevent this. It would absolutely prevent this kind of fraud. Now, I don't know. I do know that, President Trump is always right, isn't he? He's always right. He's been right all along. So I think we need to take that into consideration when we are looking at the different arguments for the biometrics. And I know that Secretary Noem was in a meeting with President Sheinbaum, And Secretary Nome was saying, we're not going to really deal with you unless you do biometrics. That was one of the stipulations. There's other stipulations, but that was one of the stipulations because there seems to be so much cartel, evil, gross fraud using people's bodies, and also organ harvesting. Okay, the problem with organ harvesting, and so um, this would somehow, I don't know. It seems like with the government, there's always evil, compromised individuals that try to um, tamper with timestamps and tamper with documents and everything, like James Montoya. I mean, James Montoya is the biggest example. He needs to be arrested. He's just a tamperer. He's just a fake. He's a fraud. He's a liar. Can you imagine not liking your name, Bano, and saying, "Oh, well, I want to run for office. I have to pretend like I have a Mexican name. Take a Mexican name." And he's just really in order to skew an election in his favor because he didn't win against Yvonne Rosales, so he had to find a way. He needed that Mexican name, I guess. I mean, he did have it in 2014. He got it, but he was trying everything he could. And then he didn't even install. Once he got it, he didn't even install properly, which is, and then he's a nothing. He's a nothing. He's a criminal, and he needs to be arrested, and he needs to be known for being a criminal that he is, a major, major stinky criminal that he is. Um, so how can the biometrics help Richard? Well, because of um, the tampering with the dental and tampering with um, other things. It could confirm the autopsies that we have. We have 3 autopsies. It could confirm if they're fake, if they're right, if they're whatever. It could identify Richard's remains. It could also identify the lack of the chain of custody. Um, it could absolutely identify the cover up, or the swapping of bodies and everything. It could identify the biometrics could be proof of possible fraud when it comes to insurance and death benefits, um, and illegal people impersonating, that kind of fraud. The It could also help the protocols to stop falsifying death records. It could do that. Um, so it could add oversight. Um, Also, the medical examiners. It could authenticate the autopsies, like I said earlier. The biometrics could. And, this is these are all good explanations of um, also crossing the dental and the DNA and all of that. But we know that they tampered with Richard's Interpol, which would also mess with biometrics. We know that's a problem because if another face is um, overimposed on a picture, and it's a composite, that when you do the biometrics on that, it's not going to be right. So maybe if you have another backup biometrics, that would be an oversight to that kind of fraud, the Interpol picture kind of fraud. Yeah, it's very interesting that he's really pushing that. Um, we weren't even thinking that way, but this indicates that he wants identification of bodies, of individuals. He wants identification because I can tell you this: there's so much fraud. There is so much fraud, so much impersonating, and it really is um, the amount of money that they steal. The grand theft larceny is huge. It is so big. So I can absolutely understand why he's pushing for that. There are freedom, human rights um, arguments against it, which is very interesting and should be taken into consideration. So, but for us and what we have had to live through, the type of fraud here and the families, can you imagine the families that got animal ashes back in their urns and their family members are piled up in these rotting dumping grounds? And there's a big possibility that some of those partial remains that were there, we know there were multiple with uniforms on and partial remains. We need the identification of these people. And um, just to think about that, that kind of fraud it just really makes you want to do biometrics, right? So, there's arguments for and against, and we will absolutely see. But what this indicates to us is that everything President Trump has done in the last 6 months is getting us closer and closer to our son's remains. I can tell you that 100%. Um, the pressure and that is, can you imagine 5 years later? And with all of their authority that, because they have bad actors in very authoritative positions as judges, as even if they're fake judges, they still are pretending and impersonating and getting away with it. And the same thing with the DA, even though you see Montoya or James Bonneau Montoya, that's his real name. Um, he's not even listing himself as a district attorney on his LinkedIn. I don't see it. I don't see it. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. Um, so so absolutely, um, this would. I'm just getting these phone calls, but I declined them. I'll get them later. But this effort by the Trump administration will absolutely just uh, to get what we are today. It's an indication that there are going to be many more arrests. We know that Ernest Christopher Grant, who's absolutely connected to our son's case, has been arrested. Leilani Hart needs to be arrested, and so many more, including Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, uh, General Garrett, General McConville, General Mealy, Lieutenant General Donna Martin. Um, they all need to be arrested. This is absolute mutiny. It's absolutely treason. It's just the most gross kind of crime. And so that's because these players, cartel tied players, put in these positions. It really is, God is no buttercup, and He's been on our side, and definitely on Trump's side. Look, they tried to kill Trump. He had a bullet, almost, almost kill him. I can't even imagine. So this biometrics, we're going to trust Trump on this one. We're going to trust him on this one. He seems to be always right, and I think the arrests and a big possibility now to recover Richard's remains, big possibility, and so that's where the accountability will really come in, and we're So please say your prayers. Thank you, Anicia. I can't give you a timetable on this. I can't. Um, thank you so much. We need your prayers, we need your love, and we need to keep working. We are working very hard behind the scenes, and so we ask for you to please share our videos, the information. Um, Absolutely share it all. And as soon as we really review uh, the interrogation of Patrick Crucius, we will give you our information on that. It is so I can tell you this right now just by watching it. It is so damning for Judge Sam Madrano and Judge David Campos Guadarrama and the law enforcement. It is so bad. So but I'm gonna wait for all the analysis to come back, and I will absolutely share that with you. So please share that with others. It's the sharing that really puts this case forward and helps it keep going. Thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back